The familiar buzz of middle school chatter filled the hallways as students trickled into room 207 at Sylview Middle School, Cleveland, Ohio. Math class was rarely anyone's favorite, and today seemed no different, just another ordinary day. Except for one girl sitting quietly near the back, her eyes lowered, her pencil tapping an anxious rhythm against her desk. Her name was Alyssa. At just 12 years old, Alyssa had already perfected the art of being invisible, a survival skill honed after years of being overlooked. She was the type of student teachers rarely noticed, quiet, diligent, never causing trouble. Her homework was always on time. She only spoke when called upon. She lived in the background, and she liked it that way. But Alyssa wasn't ordinary. Not by a long shot. If anyone had ever glanced inside her battered notebooks, they'd have found page after page not just of class notes, but complex math problems, far beyond her grade level, solved meticulously in the margins. It was her secret world. Her teacher, Mrs. Grant, was the complete opposite of Alyssa. Known for her sharp tongue and sky-high standards, Mrs. Grant had a reputation. At 42, she was a seasoned educator who believed tough love was the only way to prepare students for the real world. Some admired her. Most feared her. Today, Mrs. Grant's frustration was evident as she held up a worksheet, waving it like a white flag of surrender. This, she snapped, is basic algebra. Basic. And yet, half of you can't even solve it. The room immediately silenced, the tension thick enough to touch. I've been teaching this for weeks, she continued, slamming the paper down on her desk. And still, nothing. What is it going to take for you to care? Alyssa kept her head down, pretending to review her work. She wasn't scared of Mrs. Grant exactly, but she had a deep fear of being seen. She'd built her little world of invisibility with care, but today, it was about to come crashing down. Mrs. Grant paced in front of the room, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. You're going to see these types of problems on every test from now until college, she warned, sweeping her gaze across the rows of slumped shoulders and blank stares. Then her eyes landed on Alyssa. Miss Daniels, she barked, slicing through the silence. Alyssa flinched, her heart hammering against her ribs. The entire class turned to stare. You've been awfully quiet back there, Mrs. Grant said, a thin smile playing on her lips. Let's see if you've been paying attention. Alyssa's cheeks burned. She hated attention, hated the feeling of all those eyes on her, but she managed a small nod. Mrs. Grant wasn't done. Grabbing a piece of chalk, she turned to the board and scribbled a massive equation, a monstrous tangle of variables and exponents that looked more at home in a college lecture hall than a 7th grade classroom. Gasps and whispers rippled through the room. Go ahead, Alyssa, Mrs. Grant said, stepping aside, arms folded smugly across her chest. Solve it. A few students snickered under their breath. No way she can do that, someone whispered. What's even on the board, said another. Alyssa gripped her pencil tighter. Her mind raced, not with panic, but instinctively, calculating, analyzing, problem-solving, like she'd done 1,000 times before. Mrs. Grant leaned against her desk. Any time now, she said, a cruel edge to her voice. Or do you need a calculator? More laughter. Louder this time. But Alyssa was already moving. Slowly, she stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. It wasn't confidence that pushed her forward, it was something quieter, something stronger, determination. The classroom went silent except for the faint buzz of the overhead lights. Alyssa approached the board. The chalk was cold and unfamiliar in her hand, but her mind was sharp, alive, focused. She scanned the complicated equation, and then, without hesitation, she began to write. At first, the students were confused. The numbers and symbols she added seemed random, scattered. But then, slowly, a pattern began to emerge. The equation, once a jumbled mess, was being carefully, methodically untangled. Alyssa wasn't just solving it. She was dismantling it. Breaking it down, piece by piece, with surgical precision. Mrs. Grant's smirk faltered. The room was so quiet now, the only sound was the soft click of chalk against the board. By the time Alyssa reached the halfway point, the whispers had stopped altogether. No one was laughing now. Mrs. Grant stepped closer, her arms slowly unfolding as she watched, truly watched, for the first time. Alyssa paused once, just once, to double-check her work, then completed the final step swiftly, confidently. She circled her final answer with a flourish, dusted the chalk from her hands, and turned to face the class. Complete silence. Mrs. Grant stared at the board, her mouth slightly open. She traced the solution with her finger, muttering under her breath as she checked, and rechecked, Alyssa's work. There were no mistakes. Finally, Mrs. Grant turned toward Alyssa, her voice softer, almost in awe. How did you know how to do that?" she asked. Alyssa shifted nervously. She hated this. Hated being in the spotlight. "I've been studying," she said quietly. "On my own." The class buzzed with whispers again, but now, they weren't mocking. They were astonished. Mrs. Grant, the strict teacher known for spotting talent, realized she had completely missed the brilliance sitting quietly in the back of her own classroom. Clearing her throat, Mrs. Grant straightened her shoulders. "Class," she said, her voice steady but laced with awe, this right here, is what true talent looks like." A slow round of applause began. At first hesitant, then stronger, louder. Alyssa stood frozen, unsure how to react. But inside, something was shifting. A tiny flicker of pride warmed her chest. When Mrs. Grant asked why Alyssa had never spoken up before, her answer was heartbreakingly simple. "I didn't think anyone would care." Mrs. Grant's face softened, the stern mask slipping away. "You were wrong about that," she said gently. And for the first time, Alyssa believed it. The rest of the day was a blur. Students whispered about her in the hallways. Some offered congratulations. Some just stared, still stunned. That night, at the kitchen table, Alyssa told her parents the whole story, the impossible equation, the stunned silence, the applause. Her parents beamed with pride. "You've always had something special," her mother said, squeezing her hand. "Now everyone else is finally seeing it too." Her father smiled and added, "This is just the beginning, Alyssa." Later, sitting at her desk, Alyssa opened her notebook. But for the first time, it didn't feel like a place to hide her talents. It felt like a launch pad. She picked up her pen, not to scribble in secret, but to dream boldly. Competitions she could enter, scholarships she could earn, futures she could build. Because finally, Alyssa realized. Hiding her light hadn't protected her. It had only delayed her from shining. Alyssa's story is a powerful reminder. All of us have untapped potential. All of us have hidden talents waiting to be shared. And sometimes, all it takes is one challenge, one moment of courage, to reveal what's been there all along. So let me ask you. What's the talent you've been keeping to yourself? Maybe it's time to take your first step. Pick up the metaphorical chalk, and write your own story. Sparkles, if Alyssa's story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little encouragement, and subscribe for more uplifting stories from Thread of Time. Your support truly means the world to us. Remember, your potential is limitless. The only question is, are you ready to show the world?